Hi there, my name's Ben and this is the quick demo for Illumination, my new script for After Effects, mainly for CS6, but you know, it works in CS5, CS5.5 as well, no problem. It creates soft lighting effects, gradient lighting, soft shadows, ambient occlusion, that kind of stuff, the kind of organic, gentle effects that After Effects doesn't necessarily lend itself to too well with its standard lighting tools. What I've got here is, well, as you can see, a grey floor with some grey text. This is a camera's point of view that's moving around the text. This is an overhead view, and you can see there's also an off-white solid in the scene. And at the moment that's not going to win any prizes in a beauty contest. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this layer here that I've called Light Grid to illuminate the scene using soft lighting and illumination. Now I've actually got a ramp effect on the layer as well, which I'll come to later, but just so you know it's there, I'll just turn that off for the moment. To get going with illumination, come up to the UI. All you've got to do is choose your light spacing. This is the spacing in pixels between the lighting elements, which of itself is not so very intuitive, but if you keep an eye on the line above, the info line, it'll tell you which layer you're dealing with, how many lights you're going to get, and the arrangement that they're going to be to fit the size and shape of your layer. So if I slide this right to the right, with 1000 pixels between lights, we get a staggering 2 lights, probably not really worth making a grid at all. And if I go to the other extreme with 10 pixels between, we've got a stupendous 9417 lights, which means that if you go for it, you'll probably be rendering until your 105th birthday. Probably not a good thing. In reality, somewhere between 15 and 50 lights is a pretty good bet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go for 18 6x3 grid, casting shadows. There's various ways to lay it out. I'm just going to stick with the default center and stretch. There's other ones there, have an experiment. That doesn't make a whole lot of difference usually. And then I just hit go. Illumination makes me the 18 lights, arranged in a grid as you can see here. And you'll also notice there are 4 new effects on the light grid layer. And what you'll also notice is that my timeline is now a real mess. It's full of lights. Well, they come in locked and shy. So if you like a nice clean timeline, just hit the shy button and we're all back to usual. Everything's controlled from the light grid anyway. When you first run the script, it's usually a little bit on the dingy side. And the reason for that is that the entire luminance of the grid is the same as one bulb, basically one point light at 100%. So you've got a kind of a handle on how much luminance there is in the grid. Generally, the first thing you want to do though is to turn it up a bit. Let me just wham that up to 250. And you can see already that we're getting nice sort of soft shadows. I'm going to come in here and just turn the shadow density up a little bit so we can see that a bit better. Let me just zoom in so we can sort of see what we're doing. Yeah, there you go. You can see we've got a sort of soft shadow going on. It doesn't really quite join up, so I'm going to just increase the diffusion to maybe 50, or maybe even 100, just to sort of get those shadows to really join together. Maybe even 120, just to be on the safe side. And there you can see we've got a very believable kind of soft shadow going on. And what I'm going to do as well is just sort of uncouple that from the floor and just lift that up 10 pixels. Just, it's probably a little bit much, but just to get an idea of, you know, the sort of ambient shadow underneath the text as well. Something like that. Let's just close these down too while we're at it. So there you go, that's it in a nutshell. That's a grid created with illumination, and we've changed the shadows and the brightness to get it looking nice. If you turn Draft 3D on, it doesn't look so great, but you can actually move this grid around and use it as a sort of control for the entire lighting rig. Pretty easily, just sort of move it back and forth like that. You've even over here, if you find you get interference from the grid pattern, you can just randomize the lights a little bit as well, using different sort of seed values for different random patterns. And should you want to, if you want to kind of do a bit of surround lighting, let me just come to a slightly different view, you can use the curvature here just to give a sort of rounded pattern to the lights. Come around the front again for a second, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this ramp I put on there now. I'm just going to turn this up to 100% so we can see our control layer. And if I come and turn this ramp effect on, what happens is that the lights take the colour of the layer from the position underneath them. So the ones here are going to be this sort of orangey red colour, the ones here are going to be blue, the ones in the middle are kind of a mixture of the two. And that can be used to create gradient lighting. Let's just have a quick preview of that. And you can see already we're going from sort of reddish over to bluish. Let's just turn it off so we can see through. And that's getting a nice gradient lighting effect. We can turn that up a little bit. Let's come back into draft for a second. And what I'm going to do is just grab that layer. What I'll do is I'll turn the opacity down so I can see the controls but not the thing itself. And what I'll do is I'm just going to pull it quite a bit closer down towards the text there. That should make the effect of the gradient that little bit stronger. Perhaps I'll just aim it a little bit more frontally at the light there, and what I'm going to do too is just stretch it out quite a long way in that direction, and perhaps even just move it along that way a touch as well. Let's see how that looks, shall we? Yeah, pretty good. I mean, over here it's not quite so obvious, but in the wide view here, if we just come around and perhaps pull out a touch, you can see we've got a really cool gradient going on the floor there. That's great. Now, because the colours red and blue are less luminant than white, the whole lighting has become less luminant as well. So what I'm going to do there is just balance out the brightness again using the central control here. Let's pop it up to 500 and see how that looks. Yeah, looking good. Maybe even a touch more. 550. Let's throw caution to the wind. Whoa. Okay. And look at that. When we come around from this side, the blue highlights on the kind of reddish background. Lovely. That's exactly what this script is all about. Now the real fun of this comes as well when you start to mix it up with standard After Effects lights. What I'm going to do now is just to create a couple of bits and bobs. Let's have a spotlight and let's have it at, let's do 100 or so. It's probably a pretty good colour, a sort of warm white. I'll call that spot. What I'll do is I'm just going to expression the old point of interest down to the text here so that it points at the text, and then hopefully I can just sort of move this where I like and it'll keep pointing in the direction that I want. Let's try something like that. How does that look? See, that's going to be a great mixture now. Yeah, very cool. I like that. Okay, and how about adding an ambient light? We can give it a kind of a slightly bluish daylight look like that. Not too much, just to lift the whole thing up a bit and just make it feel a bit more daylighty. Nice, but daylight, hell, I want drama. Let's take that ambient light and I'm going to give it a -25. I'm going to suck light out of the room using my ambient light, and if I put the colour of it somewhere in a sort of yellowy green, we'll probably find that it gives a kind of magenta cast. We're sucking yellow light out of the scene now. Look at that. That's drama. Now we've got a kind of really dramatic, magenta-y, reddy kind of thing going on. That's very cool. Okay, and I think at that point, what I'm going to do is just blow it up like that, and pop that in the middle, and let's have a quick preview of that, shall we? Well, there we go, looking good. Gradient lighting, soft shadows, nice turquoisey highlights on that text. You name it, it's got it. And hey, amazing what you can do with a bit of light, huh? That's Illumination. Hope you've enjoyed the demo. My name's Ben. Thanks for listening.